And then you,
It being 7:07, I'll call the select board meeting for Wednesday, October 22nd to order. On the agenda is the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Next on the agenda is public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? Okay. Next on the agenda is the liquor license transfer public hearing. Oops, I made it second. Oh, all these? This item's been tabled, as the parties are still negotiating a lease agreement. It's not gonna be tabled. Next up on our agenda is the issuance of new liquor license, public hearing 52 High Street. Sorry. This item has been tabled as well. The applicant is still completing licensing requirements. Okay, next up, we have Building Commissioner Gary Smith about inspection department fees.
Good evening.
Hello.
So you have a pamphlet in front of you,
Okay,
and the first item on there is 9B. The second page represents what we're using now,
okay,
okay? 9B is showing what we'd like to propose for changes. You can walk through it. Essentially, I'm looking to go with $12 per thousand overall in residential and.
sit down. Yeah,
Okay, if that's okay.
okay, sounds good.
Sit down.
Yeah, same.
Looking to
Okay.
propose $12 per thousand for residential and commercial across the board for the building department. The items in the smaller font are pretty much the same as they have been. The mechanical permit fees are not changed. And then the electrical permit fees, for sake of making it simple, $20 per thousand up to the first 100,000, and then $10 per thousand after that. Reinspection fee is $50 and the minimum permit fee is $60. So the second and third page represents what we have now, what we are doing now. And obviously the first page is what I'm proposing. That's all I have.
Madam Chairman, I
Yeah.
just, for the sake of discussion, I'd just like to say that, good job, Gary, first of all, but I think it's about time that, there's a lot of development going on, and I think that this is bringing money into the town, and I think that it's about time that we started getting into line with what other communities are doing, and, so I'm in favor of this, and I would move the proposed changes.
Second.
You go.
Back now.
No, you got it. You got it. You're quicker.
Yeah, it looks like we haven't made any changes to this one
Good.
quite some time.
Of course.
So any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
for all this information too. Okay. Next on the agenda is the proposed, Chapter 40B development at 23 Queen Street. Mass Housing has received an application for a Chapter 40B development to be located at 23 Queen Street in Clinton. Mass Housing is seeking comments from town officials on this project. The Superintendent of Public Works, Fire Chief, and several abutters have submitted information for the Select Board to review. From what I understand, like, our goal is to provide mass housing with kind of a summary of our concerns, and any additional, like, I think, letters that we want to submit to them about it, whether it's from us or residents, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're right, Madam Chair. So the mass housing, they don't have public comment period, but they have a community comment period. So if there are any town agencies or town officials or boards that want to make comment on the project, they would be welcome to do that. They did ask if they could compile them kind of through the board, so they're not
Mhm.
getting every different agency kind of sending them, so they have one package. So see, these are some of the comments that have come in. We were expecting, I think the planning board was going to put some comments together as well. So this project had been proposed, it had been over quite a period of time before the planning board. The planning board had concerns. The developer, they couldn't work out an agreement, so I think the developer withdrew and then filed under the housing, mass housing for Chapter 40B. So this is the first time we're going through it, so I
Mhm.
appreciate help that town council's given us because trying to figure out what the process is and what our role is and how we handle it. So the town has the ability to provide comments. The state will then try to have the developer incorporate some of those concerns into their redesign of their project. And then if they decide to issue a permit, it will then come back to local boards for review, but only to the zoning board. So the planning board doesn't get another crack at it. It only goes to the zoning board. And mass development, mass housing would have a grant program that you could apply for funds to hire a consultant to help walk the town through the process. So that's kind of what I've kind of learned at this point, and Mr. Gibbons is fine.
It's on the administrative point of view is accurate. Now, this is just the first step.
Yeah.
The board's responsibility here is to compile comments from boards, commissions, any of the public abutters
Mhm.
who submit those written comments, and they compile those written comments and then send them into mass housing. Then mass housing does its own analysis, like Mr. Ward said, and then if they are inclined to issue a permit, they'll send a letter out. And then that would start the process at the local level. I mean, then at that point, there'd be hearings in front of the ZBA, abutters would receive notices, there'd be
Mhm.
hearings, public would participate in those hearings. And then the ZBA would ultimately make the decision. So this is just the first step. I mean, we just got this letter from Mass Housing within the last several weeks. So, and we do have an extension. I think we have until November 6th, I believe is the date to get all the documents that we've written, comments that we received, get those compiled and send them to Mass Housing.
Okay.
Right. So the deadline for a comment period was today, but Mass Housing did say they would entertain an extension. So I put in a request for extension, and they granted 15 days. So 15 days from today, as town council indicated, with November 5th. So it does give the board another meeting to take a review of the final package before it has to get submitted on the following day after the next meeting.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just
yeah.
a few questions
Sure.
to Michael and to Bob. I did walk the site that day,
Yep.
and I know that the original plan was for 9 units, and I believe it's 24 now. And having walked there, and I know that probably all these boards are going to make their comments, but I mean, from my perspective, I mean, the slopes and I don't know. I mean, it's just so many questions. Are we going to is the 15 days going to be enough of time for everyone to address their comments to the state?
Well, I haven't heard from any boards. I know the planning board is working on something. I know we did, myself and the building commissioner spoke with the conservation agent, and she was going to address it with her board to see if there's any additional impacts on the wetlands there from the added units. So I think, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we will have some feedback from those
Yeah.
boards. But in the chair, not the chair, but a member of the zoning board was at the site walk
Correct.
as well too. So I'm assuming they usually meet next week. So I'm assuming they'll have a meeting before that time frame as well too. So if all the boards meet between now and November 6th, hopefully they'll be able to give any feedback that they want at that point.
Yeah, because I mean, Gary, just from the slope, it would have to be water runoff. I mean, it's wet in that area anyways, because I'm familiar with one of my nieces lived on Berlin Road on that side.
The only concern that I see is what was the original plan based on what was the plan that was revised? Because it get quite a bit of retention area for stormwater designed into the plan that we had seen. Now, whether the conservation has seen that same plan.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
We meet tomorrow and does the agent have the new plans?
Yeah, that's the email that the board received had the mass housing letter and the plans, electronic plans that were submitted by the consultant for the developer. So those were submitted to numerous agencies from, to the, we had submitted to the permitting office and, asked that they be distributed, but that went to police, fire, public works, Board of Health, all the permitting agencies, building commissioner. So, whatever I could think of who might
Yeah.
want to impact a review of the school superintendent as well. So anyone that thought might have an interest, I try to kind of forward that email to as many people as we could. So
I mean, I would hope our fire department would respond to that because there's only one way in and out of there.
Yeah, we had talked about an 18-foot. 18 was, I think, as wide as the conservation was willing to go. And there was a question with the fire. I think it was closer to 20 or 23. So that was, I talked to the chair, or we traded messages today just to get refreshed. And again, we'll talk about it tomorrow night. But that was our thing.
The width of the street, yeah.
The
And
width
I think the
Driveway, it was a driveway.
driveway, sorry.
No, that was the street.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just gonna ask a question, and we noticed that there was a letter from the chief in the packet, but it was maybe not up
That's the old
to,
one.
yeah, the old one, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
like 9.
yeah, I'll reach out to him and confirm
Just-
because he did send that to me in response to that email, but then noticed the date was from when the previous project was being reviewed. So I want to see if the date was just wrong or if there was the wrong letter, his wrong comment. So I'll follow up with him. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just another couple of questions. Does the 40B designation exempt the developer from conservation rules and regs or stormwater retention and dispersal regs? Or is it just zoning that they get the exempted for?
I don't believe.
Yeah, if you want to look
Sorry,
for the
I'm-
microphone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you sit up here? Because the microphone, this is probably important for them. everyone to hear.
So to answer your question is, I don't believe it exempts the conservation. Zoning board, yes. In regards to conservation at our site meeting, we didn't have a conservation agent then.
At that time.
Yeah. And I did talk to Chief Lutz before, on Tuesday, and I know he was waiting to hear back from a state engineer in regards to the NFPA rules on, I believe the width is okay, but he was concerned about where do you turn the fire apparatus around at the end of the cul-de-sac. That's about all I know in regards to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've identified conservation, planning, DPW submitted a letter, fire, police, zoning, and school have been notified if they want
Right.
to. Maybe a second email, just with maybe a buffer deadline before to just say, just
Yeah.
another opportunity, the packet will need to send out by this extension date, and
Yeah,
then,
then the boards will only has one more opportunity to review. So if we
Yeah.
get them all in before the next.
Yeah.
meeting. Yep.
and then if there are any additional, I appreciate everyone who's sent in some additional information who lives in the neighborhood. If there's more people who want to contribute to this packet, this opportunity is still there,
Right.
correct? Yeah. So maybe, I'm just gonna look at a calendar here.
Just while you're looking at that.
Yeah.
So is the town required or responsible for condensing all of this feedback into, a notice, or
anything that's submitted is submitted.
Yeah, I think we don't necessarily have to condense it. I think it's whatever agency wants to submit something. I think they just kind of want it to come as one package. So they're
Gotcha.
not having to try to track, is this for Clinton? Is this for that project?
Yeah.
Picturing him having to,
So,
consolidate it.
yeah. How about if we say, October 31st? And that will give us a few days to, grab anything, and, pull that packet together. I think, I mean, if this board has any particular concerns, like, feel free to include it. I'm happy to draft a letter if everyone wants to provide me with their feedback, so it can be separate or together. It's entirely up to you, but, I think in a couple of the, letters that we received and in some of the feedback I've gotten from other citizens when I first joined the board of, this developer promised that we would get streetlights or, and I think it was mentioned in a few of the boards, like, if these plans do not go as planned, it was really hard for us to go back to the developer, have them fix. Like, once they're kind of done, I feel like in a couple of instances, they're kind of done and moved on. And that is kind of a concern as well, is if these people move forward, I think, we're kind of left with the repercussions if the plans for mitigating the flooding or whatever are not carried out as originally intended, then we're stuck with, dealing with those repercussions as a community. So just want to kind of express those concerns as well.
Perfect.
So, all right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, there's no other questions about that. Move on to the next one. Community and Economic Development Director Phil Duffy has some department updates.
Good evening, everyone. Here on two matters which have been before you before. The first on the agenda is just to consolidate and receive any feedback you have on the RFP for Gene Stoic. There are a couple of decisions which I outlined in the memo that we need to make, and just want to get your input on really a couple things, as well as any input.
I only have, sorry. This would be-
Everybody laughed at me when I brought it up 4 years ago.
We did. I think this is the question portion, Phil. The question portion for the RFP. This is the portion of it. I
Yeah.
can ask a question. Okay. It was only about the community input or the community plan. Sorry. I think the first one was kind of more general, like, we've made an investment in this area, like, it has to be kind of up to the standards of the area. But I think the second one said something about, like, the kind of the designation of it, not like keeping it a gas station, but sorry, I'm looking for it right now. It was about, like, the community, like, expectations.
There's two places that touch on community goals.
Sorry.
One is section 3, and then I think there's just kind of our RFP goals section.
Two.
RFP community, no, it isn't.
Oh, second, yeah, okay. So secondary community goals include the redevelopment that integrates well with adjacent uses, that is responsive to the unique characteristics of the building as a simple but excellent example of interwar service station design. That is pedestrian scale. So if someone wanted to, like, remove that building, is that possible too, or is the expectation?
It's certainly possible.
Okay,
It's just a question of how we would score that as opposed to a sensible and appropriate renovation. uh, Older buildings are part of community character.
Mhm.
I would somewhat be surprised if someone would knock over that building. We did the assessments, this phase 2 assessment back in 2018. The engineer identified scenarios that included the removal of the building and remediation of the site with the building in place. Due to the increased cost of soil removal with removal of building, it was really expensive. So, no, it doesn't preclude it,
Mhm.
but
So they would
in terms of
score lower.
identifying homes here, it says, yeah, that it as a secondary goal, you know, which is the appropriate renovation of the building. And
Where are you finding that? I don't
Okay.
see that on my side.
that's in section 3.
So
So these pages aren't paginated. Section 3.
to me, it's
community.
page 48,
Of
Oh,
the
the
informational packet.
but a second packet came.
So I have 12 pages on one.
Yeah. Before you.
And then
And to follow up on that,
Mm-hmm.
section 5.2, the attractiveness of the proposed site development, these give the scoring criteria. It says under C, 2.C, the building is improved by replacement or repair of commercial glazing, doors, trim, and details. Basement repair and paint improvements are well designed and accomplished with durable and historically appropriate materials, or any new proposed structure is appropriately scaled to the site and its context, and it is constructed in durable and effective. So it does specifically allow for building, but
Oh.
those are, again, criteria for what that building looks like. The attractiveness of the site is one of our criteria.
Okay. So if someone came and just had like what the committee or the group decided is attractive for and appropriate for that site,
Yes,
that's possible too. Doesn't have to stay the gas station, but it's open.
yeah,
It-
yeah.
yeah.
And
Okay.
you'll entertain any good idea. And then again, that's one of a multitude of considerations.
yeah. I was gonna say it looked like a robust scoring. Great. So that was my only question. Thank you.
To walk through some of the decisions that I want to make, and I want to walk you through the procedure that's identified for review and selection and what happens if and when we get the proposal that we like. It's proposed that these committees will be reviewed by a small in-house, these proposals will be reviewed by a small in-house review committee, which is typical when we receive RFPs. It's basically good procurement practice not to have one person reviewing an RFP. And they will make a recommendation to the procurement officer, Michael, who will review them as well as the responses to make sure that they are complete. And then he will make a recommendation. He will be informed by the review committee. He will make a recommendation to you for designation of a preferred proposer. This is the person whose proposal we like best. At that point, we would enter into negotiations for a purchase and sale agreement with conditions allowing each party to do its due diligence. If the person proposes to make an investment of X dollars, this will give us an opportunity for that. This will give them an opportunity to secure those dollars. Security will give us an opportunity to follow up any equipment. That which is fairly typical. And then at the end of the purchase and sale agreements, like the conveyance of any other property, if all the conditions that are set out in the PNS are still there, then we sign and we're done. To proceed that the proposal elements, the application elements, which you see are a price, there's 3 elements. The first is an earnest deposit, which is requesting that with their proposal, they make a deposit of $5,000 to the town. And this is really just an earnestness check, so that we can understand that if someone is interested in having renovations, we think that would be required to address this property, they will make a check that we will hold in escrow, in deposit refund upon the termination of the review process. So that we are more likely to receive proposals, we are less likely to receive proposals proposals that are for this. Then the second element is the price proposal, which will include both their purchase proposal and a description of their anticipated investment. And then finally, there's the technical proposal, which is where they describe to us their business, their experience, their proposed use, their proposed renovations of the property. And we move all of those together. There's a weighted criteria identified in the RFP, and we arrive at a scored ranking of proposals and use those to make a recommendation to the procurement office. So that is all embedded in there. I just wanted to make sure that you guys have all kind of understood the submittal process and the review process. And these again are taken from probably about 7 RFPs issued by other municipalities that I reviewed to try to understand what the best practice is.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, just
Yeah.
a quick question.
Sure.
And this is, I mean, I don't expect you to have an answer, but just a feeling. Do you think that there will be a lot of participation in this? Responses to it? Or how do you feel? I mean, you have any vibes about it?
If we received 5, I wouldn't be surprised. If we received none, I also wouldn't be surprised because it's such a unique property.
Mhm.
But this is our first bite at the apple.
Sure. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
No. I just saying thank you to him for
Oh, yeah. And so how do we get the word out? Like, is there channels that are typically used?
Had a conversation with the reporter at the Worcester
Uh-huh.
Business Journal about putting an article in there. Put out to social media. It was suggested that we engage a broker. I'm not sure what the legality of that is. But yeah, we want to make sure we will be thinking about that as an issue. Proposing that it stay out for a minimum of 3 months. That's a recommendation from Mass Development. Allow interested parties to do their due diligence, assemble any financing if it's needed.
Any more questions about this topic? No? Okay. Thank you.
Oh, well, I think we have every element of the RFP. I'm probably gonna make one more revision. I was reading it again. I think I'll probably go more lightly on the environmental information. I think that probably condensed. And we'll probably have this out in a week or 2.
Okay.
Before your next meeting.
Great.
Okay. And forgive me, my throat is very dry.
Oh, no worries.
I think if there's no other questions on 329 High Street, go on to the LED set.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
Trying it.
Just to briefly give you a recap since our last meeting, I had 2 sets of site visits. One with the electrician to look at kind of the electrical needs associated with any proposed site for a second location. And then another with a range of people from a bunch of different departments with a full-scale mock-up put in place to kind of really understand how these signs, message boards might work in situ. Are they visible? Are there things that block them? Are they blocking anything? All those kinds of things. So that we did that, I think, on the 9th of October. Brian Gardner, a couple of people from the facilities department were very helpful. Mackenzie Maloof was there for the Depot Square setting, and then myself, the fabricator, and Lee Abdella. And we looked at 3 places. I should say, my prior meeting with the electrician, we ruled out the site up on the soccer fields at the high school. Effectively, there was just too little space when we actually measured it off between the power lines and the edge of the road for me to feel comfortable, either for the safety of the sign or for drivers. So we looked at that. We looked at another site down by Reservoir Pines, which is a beautiful site, except that not a lot of people drive by. So we looked at the depot. We looked at the fire station, of course, which we always understood was going to be a location. And we looked at Triangle Park, which had originally been kind of ruled out of concern for that it might pose an undue distraction to drivers. But I was thinking about it as driving past it, and I thought about what if we push it back into the park more, so that it was less conspicuous and less right on top of the intersection. And so we pushed it back to a location about 70 feet from the edge of the paving, about 57 feet away from the back edge of the curb. Basically where there's a cherry tree that appears to be in poor shape. Brian Farragut was there. It looks really good. It looks really good to me. When very critically looked at it, coming up the hill, coming from Grove Street, from Mechanic Street, and from Chestnut Street. I think it's actually a very good location that I think, and if you have any concerns about this, I'd be happy to arrange to set it up again so that you can drive by and take a look. But I don't think it's a distracting site, but I think it is a conspicuous site that can serve as a gateway to the town and will capture a lot of traffic coming to town from the south and the east. So I'm recommending that as our second site for the LED sign.
Sorry, what's the first one?
The fire station.
Fire station, sorry. Okay.
That tree come down?
Big part?
The tree's gonna come down?
Yeah. Yeah, Brian's, well, yes,
And sorry, is this a two-sided sign or?
it is a two-sided.
So the idea is we're catching things, traffic going out just on the side facing the police station?
Yeah, but also on mechanic.
Mechanical.
Yeah,
You can actually see over the retaining wall and the line of sight's actually pretty good.
okay.
Any concerns about those two sites? No. Right,
Excellent.
there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Ray Geary, the Human Resources Manager with some personnel updates.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I guess I'll just jump right in. Just wanted to provide some, begin with some high-level updates. This is, I apologize for it being quite lengthy. I wanted to be thorough and provide all the information that you needed. The first part of this packet does address a proposed bylaw change that the personnel board voted on in September to essentially pursue. So they didn't make any final decisions to actually pursue this, I'm sorry, to accept this, but to pursue the changes with input from the select board and finance committee, because it pertains specifically to the benefits, vacation, sick, personal, for benefited employees in the town. So originally there was a more robust set of changes that was proposed back in the spring. The personnel board did choose to table that because they felt we needed to undergo a little further scrutiny. And so they've decided that beginning in the fall of this year, what we'll be doing is reviewing each section one by one. But they decided to start with part 5 because this is where they got stuck last spring. So it's quite lengthy, the amount of changes. I'm happy to go through every single last one if you would like.
So part 5 is multiple sections.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I appreciate the detail and the length of this presentation. Unfortunately, I'm not a speed reader and I'm not going to be able to ask intelligent questions based on the fine print and the length of the document. So I'm going to request that we have another opportunity after we've had a chance to review this document to meet with Ray and go over the proposals here.
Is there anything like high level you want to say about this particular need
So
for a change?
the approach here is where we can't really make up for the salaries that we're offering to attract new talent. We're looking to beef up or offer a more robust benefits package and change our method for accrual for vacation and sick time and the way that we administer it. And we're in a very good position to do this right now because we've just started onboarding the self-service time and attendance module for non-union employees that we're starting to roll out very small numbers to see what we can do to accurately track vacation, sick, and personal time, and for various other reasons also. And we're hoping that this is a small part of a much bigger initiative in the future. But we'll be able to track this electronically without having to rely on spreadsheets or department heads having to do kind of the math and report back. And it'll help us have accurate numbers, especially come end of year. This section also memorializes a lot of current practices and addresses some of those compliance issues that are in there. One in particular is the parental leave portion of the benefits section, which we've put in language that matches the policy that was voted in by this board in February of 24.
Madam Chairman, just a question for town solicitor on this. Bob, don't any of these changes have to go to town meeting?
Oh, yeah.
They have to be approved at town meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can't be like an internal thing. It all has to be approved.
Right.
Whatever changes, yeah, I just want to make a clarification that it all has to,
These changes have to ultimately.
correct. I just wanted to make the clarification, just to, okay.
And the board is also going to seek council input from council to make sure that we're above board on this before it goes to anywhere.
Any questions? Madam Chair, before Ray leaves? The executive assistant to the town administrator, how long before that application package is available for appointment?
It's ready to go. If you look at the back of your packet, it has the status of all the positions. The list of applicants was already sent to the town administrator. The position posting closed on the 10th. So as soon as we're ready to hire.
I'm trying to diagnose which ones are in the hands of the appointing authorities at this point. Council on Aging has somebody here.
Yes. So what you'll see is that there's actually a column there that says when the candidates or the application material that was submitted was forwarded to the hiring managers. Council on Aging has an item on there right now that they're currently reviewing applicants for. I'm working with them on that. They also have another vacancy. So currently we're exercising one of the temporary provisions in the personnel bylaw to allow them some assistance while they work out these two vacancies.
Okay, let me try it a different way. How many of these open positions are in the hands of the appointing authority at this point?
1, 2,
The assistant.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
In the hands of the appointing authority,
Yep. I see the column now, Ray. I'm sorry.
well, I mean, if we're talking appointing authority or hiring manager, we're talking about two different things. That's why it's taken me a second to answer.
I'm specifically the hiring authorities, the people empowered to make the decisions on who to hire. That's what I'm asking. And I see that's when it says material to hiring manager.
Yes.
That's you?
No, that's to the
That's-
hiring manager.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Sure. And the only other thing I want to make sure that everyone here is looking at it. I've received questions about it, and I've seen some of the meetings where the assistant town administrator position was brought up and what the process has been for that. There is an item here where we do see what the proposed draft was that I worked with the town administrator on, as well as you, Madam Chair. I've also included the old position description so that you could see a side by side on that, and the results of a recent salary survey where it shows where the current assistant town administrator falls compared to a relative market, and what my recommendation for that is. So I would just need a decision from this board whenever it's ready as to whether or not, of course, the town administrator, as to whether or not we want to pursue sending this, getting approval from the personnel board so that we can start recruiting for this role. And I think that's pretty much all I need to say.
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
Just, I want to go back to this HR, your position.
Sure.
Got, but it's new for FY 26, so you have no intention of filling that position in
I do.
this fiscal, oh, well. Have you posted the job?
I have not. I just got the last bit of information I needed to be able to post it.
I'm sorry?
I just got the last bit of information I needed to be able to post it. The position is classified as a Class D. The position description is included in your packet so that you can review. It was approved by the personnel board. It is underfunded. The position's written as a full-time position. However, we can fill it with a part-time, non-benefits eligible position, and hopefully we're able to get full-time funding for the next fiscal year.
But it was approved during the budget process and at town meeting as a 19-hour a week job. It wasn't approved at town meeting as a full position. So I don't really, I mean, it doesn't mean anything to me what the personnel board did, making it a full-time position. It was voted at town meeting as a 19-hour a week job. So my question is why hasn't that been filled? That was at the end of June that it was approved, and we're now approaching November.
Sure.
And I know that you indicated that there was a need for two positions you advocated for. They chose to give you one for 19 hours at $40,000, I believe, was the salary. And I just can't understand why it hasn't been, it's taken over 4 months to even get the job advertised.
Sure. Well, it wasn't made obvious to me that it was approved as a 19-hour position. It was approved at $40,000 to my knowledge. And I was
Well,
approached.
I mean, if you put it down to the 40,000 at a year's salary, that equates to approximately 19 hours.
Yeah, but
I would disagree.
I would respectfully disagree. I think a position being written in the way that it's classified doesn't determine the status of the
All right.
position.
Then if we don't want to get into that issue, why hasn't the job been posted? I mean, if you want to.
fairness.
What do you mean, all fairness?
In all-
Let's be honest, guys.
Yeah, let's be honest.
You're concerned about every single other position and the status of it. I think I have every right to ask. This is the third meeting that I brought it up. And I don't see what's wrong with asking why the job hasn't been filled.
You're stating this information right out of the gate.
I just said, I sat in all those finance committee meetings, and if it wasn't considered a part-time job at $40,000 for the fiscal year, what was it then supposed to be? You tell me.
The position was proposed and they granted $40,000 towards it. It wasn't determined if it was part-time or full-time or what the hours were. It was basically a compromise on, we're not going to fund this, so here's that.
Right, so you don't think that the assumption of the board of, the finance committee was, and it certainly was in my mind, that a job would be advertised for whatever accommodations for $40,000.
that's an assumption. You just said it yourself.
Well, the finance committee put it in the budget. What did they
So
expect?
it's
Just to sit there
it's a
for the
new
fiscal year
position.
and not be used?
I mean, we have an executive assistant we haven't filled for quite some time either. This stuff takes time. If you're creating a brand new position, there's going to need clarification. There's things that need to be
Well, and
done.
if it needed to have clarification, why wasn't there a meeting back to the finance committee and to the board of selectmen? What then was the vision for this position for 40,000?
That was stated very thoroughly through the whole entire process.
I guess this is just
I mean,
not gonna go anywhere.
The
So
last
anyways,
meeting
okay.
the last meeting we had, we're still talking
So-
about spatial issues.
I know.
So where's he?
But wait a
That
minute,
was
where's
like-
this person going to be?
No, wait a minute. Now, my understanding is the question was posed to Michael at our last meeting. The superintendent of schools said that he had the space at the Old St. John's and he would be more than glad to accommodate his needs.
That was 3 weeks
That was,
ago.
so is the proposal to move the entire HR department down to St. John's? Or to the
I'm
superintendent?
not here every day, Julie. I mean.
But you seem
He
to be
can
very opinionated about what should happen here. So if you're not
Listen,
here every
there
day.
should be communication with the administrator.
Yes,
So, I mean, I'm not expected to be here to ask those questions. If you want me.
But you're
come and
happy to
ask
ask
them, I
them.
will. Listen, Julie, for 3 meetings, I have asked the status of that
and he
position.
just gave
I
it to
have
you. We said,
legitimately
you
asked
bring
that.
him in, and now he's here to answer your questions.
And
And he
I'm
has answered your
asking
questions.
him why the job isn't being filled, and you people are like,
Yeah,
all
we're
over
crazy.
me. Oh, this and that, the other thing. Fine.
Well,
I won't ask the
as much
question.
then.
I'll ask the finance committee myself,
Sure.
what their understanding of what that $40,000 meant. That's it.
Maybe it's a good,
I
maybe
guess
it's a
there's
good
a-
lesson to be learned that if the
Yeah.
finance committee makes these decisions, they should offer clarity as to what exactly they want.
Well, I'm sure they won't make the same.
Because it
mistake.
wasn't exactly, I mean, the ask, and it doesn't exactly come back to the department heads to say, this is what we can offer you. Is this something you're interested in? It's just decisions made. So trying to move forward with those decisions, because I don't disagree that help is needed, but there are certain things that have to be put in place before we can open it up to someone who comes in.
Madam Chair, just a comment to make on this subject. There is a huge distinction between a part-time employee and if this starts in January, this position, it's a full-time position with all the ancillary costs, the health insurance, the vacation time, the all the benefits that go with a full-time employee that wouldn't accrue if it were a 19-hour-a-week employee. So there's a distinction to be made. And I think at least the finance committee should be consulted on how this goes forward, what their intention was. It's not binding, but it would be helpful to know what the finance committee's intention was.
If I may. The position that I'm going to hire will be a part-time position. The position has not been hired because there has been a space issue for a couple of reasons. One of the biggest ones being that as someone who is overseeing many personnel issues, I need to be able to separate myself from an HR coordinator in my office to hold confidential meetings. Another issue, whether or not I can get another phone line and a computer in there, whether I can fit another desk in there. And then what happens when I have to hold those confidential meetings? Because this chamber room is not always available. Those are some of the issues. The other is trying to find somebody qualified within $40,000 a year, even at a part-time role. When benchmarking that position, I asked for $61,000 full-time. Now, I'm not fiscally irresponsible. I'm not going to bring someone in here in January and give them a full-time role in hopes that we can bring somebody in here July 1st full-time, which is a big reason why I needed to take a lot of consideration to figure out how to fill this role and to do it effectively. Now, I just found out at the same time you did, watching this meeting, that space was available for me elsewhere. I'm exercising my due diligence. Now, I'm happy to answer any further questions about the position. And if you would like me to hold on filling it, please let me know. But as of the beginning of this meeting, when the town administrator updated me on a computer being available for my person, this position is ready to be filled. At least in the interim, until I can get someone in here full-time to help me. Because that's what I need.
Madam Chair, so to Mr. Conley's point, this position was proposed there, the amount of information that was provided is comparable to what we were handed today. So the finance committee over the last couple of years that I've been involved with the budgeting, this is a very common practice. They've done it with the fire prevention officer, where there was one salary that was requested, and then the return is, well, here, okay, we'll fund it up to 70,000. There's no distinction on, is this full-time, is this part-time? So working on the assumption, based upon the paperwork, he was seeking funding for a full-time position. And they chose to fund it at $40,000. They didn't delineate whether it's part-time, full-time, no benefits, whatever the case may be. So Why we have to go back to the finance committee again to revisit this, and this has been presented to the personnel board as well. I mean, as far as I understand, the personnel board has it's within their purview to assist in creating the position. The finance committee funds the position. The end.
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I disagree with you, Matt, about the hours for fire station position. It was I can remember the chief saying it was going to be a Monday through Friday job.
Mhm.
So to say that they didn't know what they were voting on is not correct. They knew that when they put that money in there, that their understanding was the chief was going to be hiring somebody for that position Monday through Friday.
Full time.
Full time or part?
Well, listen, he's the one who said he was gonna take a person off. That person was gonna be working a full-time shift Monday through Friday. That's the way I understood it.
So it's no different than what the human resources manager provided during the budget presentation. He also provided something that was based upon a full-time position. And at no point did the finance committee counter that and say, no, we're willing to fund it as a part-time position.
Well, that's why I'm saying, I think we need to meet with the finance committee and see what their understanding was.
So are you then gonna use that to,
I'm not using
kinda
anything.
highlight
I'm
that
not using
this
anything.
hasn't
Yeah,
been-
I am
this
asking
hasn't been
questions.
hired
I am
in
asking
X
questions
weeks?
and I have every right, whether you like it or not, I have every right to ask the questions.
I have zero.
I don't really
issues.
care
Like,
what you like. It's my right to ask
they
the
didn't say
questions.
anything about not putting words in my mouth.
Oh, I'm always putting words in your mouth. Yeah.
All right. Did we make everyone comfortable?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, I want to thank Ray for this really in-depth and thorough presentation. And I apologize, but I'm not apologizing, but I need time to digest it, to come up with questions and concerns that I might have. But I do appreciate the level of detail that went into this, and I'd like to be able to respond in 2 weeks. And I wanted to ask the chair if I can generate areas of concern that I might have, or any of the other board members, and refer them to you for direction to Ray, or refer them to Mike for direction to Ray,
Sure.
just so he's prepared. I don't want to have you come in 2 weeks and
Have to
go
answer on
at
the
you
fly.
unprepared. I want you to understand the concerns that I have, so that you're prepared to respond to them. I don't think it's fair to just take this, go home and make a list and throw it at you in 2 weeks. So if it's okay, could I forward them to the town administrator and
Yes.
copy the chair?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm open to anyone who has questions for sure. Thanks for that consideration.
Yeah, I apologize for not being able to send this earlier. I do expect that it will take time to
Yeah.
review and digest.
Right,
Because
I
it is
know.
quite lengthy.
Expectation was to do that. All right, so I don't know if the finance committee is even meeting regularly. So,
So I guess I'll ask if the board thinks I should hold off on you with this position.
I mean, I'm comfortable with you moving forward. If we can want to vote on it, we
I'll
can.
make a motion to approve the human resources manager moving forward with advertising and filling the position.
Can we get clarification? It's a part-time position. Part-time
Yes,
position.
sorry, I wanted a verbal.
It's okay.
Yes, it's a part-time position.
I'll second.
Any further discussions?
Under discussion, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If it's a part-time position, that's the budget would provide through the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
I'm in favor of it at that point.
So all those in favor of moving forward,
Aye.
opposed? 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
And I want to echo, thank you for this thorough packet. Okay, next up is traffic committee recommendations. I don't really, I mean,
Sure, I should,
Yeah.
I just, start the conversation, Madam Chair. So the, traffic committee had a couple of meetings recently. These were 5 recommendations that came out of, those meetings. First one being, just the approval of wayfinding signage for Woodlawn and Pine Street neighborhoods. So, where Woodlawn Street kind of crosses Pine Street and goes down the hill. There are cars, it's technically not a dead end because they could come up New Harbor Road. But it appears that the GPS are bringing people from, say, the DPW yard up the hill and going straight across into that neighborhood down below by the water, and then having them go through up back to New Harbor to go over the bridge instead of just going down Pine Street, which most people do. So there was a resident down there that was concerned. They were getting a lot of traffic. Cars were turning around driveways. A couple of cars had gotten stuck down there. So he had called Google, but they were taking a long time to respond. And I guess somebody told me that a week or two ago, there was a car going up there, driving around, doing a mapping. So hopefully they're getting it now. They're up in that neighborhood. But they just asked if there could be signage put in that when people do come down the hill, that it could point them to New Harbor. So just saying New Harbor Road this way, so they don't just keep going until they get to the water or get to somebody's driveway or somebody's house, just gives them direction to get back out of that neighborhood. Hopefully Google will then complete their new mapping to send people over Pine Street and right out over the bridge from it.
Yeah.
There was signage that the DPW had put up at one point for that, and then one of the residents who was not in support of the tractor trailers going through had contacted DPW and complained about a sign being put up, so they were removed.
Okay. What did the sign say? Just not a
There was no
throughway?
throughway, and then something about, I don't think the other one ever got up the trucks,
Mhm.
basically trying to point them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the DPW felt like they could address the situation with some signage that they had, so we had asked them to move forward with that. Or I guess the vote of this board, but that would be, there seemed to be a solution, but this resident was saying it's starting to become habitual.
Now,
Sorry, which resident is this?
I only know his first name, but he lives at the bottom of Harbor
Right.
Road.
It was, Mr. St. Hilaire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's that he lives down in that neighborhood.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve of the recommendation by the traffic committee for wayfinding signage for Woodlawn Street at Pine Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna abstain just because I missed that part. but
Okay,
Good luck.
4-0.
Thank you. The next item was trying to come up with a plan for the notice requirements for 25-mile-an-hour speed on High Street signage. Knowing, as the work being done down there, kind of didn't want to have a 25 signs on every, every 10 feet there. So after discussion with traffic committee back and forth and the DPW superintendent did some research and police chief looked down that they talked about maybe putting some markings in the road so that people, when they turn onto High Street, they could see the marking in the street, 25 miles per hour. But the DPW superintendent indicated looking at the manual, the road signage manual, they didn't know if that would be legally sufficient to give notice. So they talked about doing a sign at each intersection. So one at Union and High in Church, and then down at High and Water. So with the markings in the road, and then those 3 locations for signs. So at least get it started, see how that's working, and then review it after that.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the traffic committee recommendations for sign placement locations for the 25 mph speed limit on High Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you. The next for the installation, recommending installation of a yield sign exiting Boylston Street onto Oak. So if you're coming down the hill into Clinton on Boylston Street and then taking the ramp to go towards Oak Street, that's kind of a tight corner. There are cars that park on that corner and cars are coming down the hill at a decent speed. So it's really giving notice of a yield sign that there are cars coming up the other side of the ramp. So as cars are coming in to go to Oak Street, there may be cars coming up the other way, there may be cars coming off Oak Street. So just kind of giving notice of a yield to kind of slow down, take your time, look to see what other cars are over there. So the committee thought that was a good idea.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the traffic committee recommendation of installing a yield sign exiting Boylston Street onto Oak Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And
Okay.
I'm not clear exactly what we're doing up there, so.
Okay. 4-0.
Thank you. The next, and no, the building commissioner did stay for this, if the board had any questions, but I think there was becoming an issue on Allen Street with cars from some of the businesses there parking on the street, which was kind of really congesting the area. I know the department had concerns as well as some of the other departments. So the recommendation was to try a no parking from 129 Allen Street to the intersection, up to the High Street intersection on the east, west, north, south.
That would
If
be
you're
south.
coming from Allen onto High would be on the right, where the businesses are, where the metal buildings are. There was a question about the other side of the street, but I think they thought trying one side first and see how that would work out, and then maybe revisiting it again, how that works. But it was starting to become parking area for the businesses operating in that stretch. So,
In all fairness, there's vehicles that are literally parked in the street in other neighborhoods. Down here, it looks like they're parking on the shoulder, which at least it's not in the middle of the street, like some trailers that are unattended.
No, they are, if you go down during the day, they are on the street.
Yeah.
They definitely, and they have flatbeds coming in, as you can see right there.
Yeah,
They have them on the road, and it's impossible. You have to stop and wait for them to unload their stuff. It's very, very congested. It's tremendously congested.
Madam Chair, I spend a lot of time on Allen Street going to my property next door to the Dairy Queen. And I'm well aware of the congestion that's occurring there with those vehicles. But situations like that occur all over town. While I'd like to see the street wide open, I'd like to see that same kind of approach taken all over town rather than single out one business. If they're long-term parking and they're leaving vehicles overnight, maybe we could do something about that. But I'm not inclined to support banning parking in front of one business.
Well, I think you have to start somewhere, Bill. And this, I mean, I know you live there a lot. I'm down there a lot. There are multiple vehicles. They only have parking for, I think it's 21. And during the course of the day and on the side of the buildings, there's upwards to 50 vehicles. I mean, it's a serious problem. So from my perspective, you have to start somewhere. I mean, I would move the motion that we put the signs up.
One second.
For purposes of the discussion, I'll second it, but I'm opposed to it.
Madam Chair, so this kind of overlaps a little bit on the Title II, where there is a little bit of discrepancy between the number of vehicles for repair versus the number of vehicles that are being sold. My question is, is it possible to implement the same, have the same concept of repair shops can only have so many vehicles on their lot? Because it seems like, going to your point in the other neighborhood, there are a lot of vehicles that are on that lot to the point it's encroaching on wetlands. So like, what can we do to ensure that it's not becoming oversaturated?
Well, Jim, that's part of what the Class 2 committee is doing,
Okay.
which will be coming in hopefully in 2 weeks. So this is all discussion that we're having. But during the discussion on the Class 2s and the repairs and stuff, very clearly, we have had numerous, I've had numerous complaints myself. I know other people have about the situation down there. And I know the individual that lives right next door to it, he has made multiple complaints, I think, to just about everyone. And again, you got to start somewhere. And I have to say the Class 2 committee is working really hard. And I think a lot of what you brought up about the other establishments in town, we're looking to address all of it. I mean, it's not just one spot, it's everywhere. And that will be part of the proposal that we will present to the Board of Selectmen. So I think the traffic committee, when they met, they realized that there was a problem down there, and that was why that was their recommendation.
So you're saying that you think there will be some like additional guidance that is going to come out?
Yeah, I know
meeting.
Gary is on it. Michael attends the meetings as well. We've talked about every site around town and the different situations. A lot of it is very difficult, and but we're working on it, and I think little by little we will find hopefully solutions to some of these problems. So,
yeah, then if you're anticipating that, I'm kind of wondering if it's, we can certainly vote, but whether if there's some like due diligence happening that might kind of change that, and then maybe continue to communicate with those business owners,
well, I know you're
State
on the
of-
traffic committee.
Yeah.
I mean, so
yeah,
you were in that discussion
yeah,
for the traffic committee to make that recommendation. I'm just curious
right.
what their reasoning was. Obviously,
I think,
I would think they saw the same situation that our committee is seeing, and the complaints that are being lodged, to that particular site.
yeah, I
And
think
that's a very busy street.
it is a busy street. It is a busy street. Mr. Conley makes a good point about, there was a lot of busy streets. There's a lot of traffic. I just don't want to, yeah, we were part of that decision. There's a concern down there. That was the initial, I think, idea. But if there's maybe some work we can do with these businesses to try and curb some of it, then maybe we can, I'm thinking we could hold off on establishing that as a no parking area pending the results of this type of thing. So yes, I was on the traffic committee that brought this here, but in the discussion of the information that is now available.
Madam Chair, I mean, I would be in support of tabling this until the Class 2 dealer license committee kind of makes a presentation. I will maintain an open mind to it. Versus tonight, if I was to vote, I would not be in support of doing it. But I'd be willing to table it.
Madam Chair, I second exactly what Matt said. I'm prepared to say, if we were going to vote on it, that I'd be voting against it at this point, but I'd certainly be willing to reconsider it at a future time.
Yeah.
And maybe tabling it would be a better avenue. So I second Matt's thoughts.
I've heard.
Mary, you made the motion. Are you comfortable with
Always
tabling
my
it?
motion, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right, let's move forward with that plan, and hopefully we can work with the businesses to try and find a a solution for all. And I'll, maybe I'll follow up with the chief and see if we can maybe just write a letter to those businesses and just say like, we're concerned again. I don't know what communications, but maybe just sending them an official letter saying this is becoming problematic. Can you help us with this? And, you know, doesn't hurt to, I guess, put it out there, let them know. More no parking. So we're
Sure.
Next
So
one.
this is another new parking. Again, it's on Green Street as you turn off
Yeah.
Chestnut. So as you go around that sharp corner, there are cars starting to encroach from the Lancaster Mills development parking lot. They have a huge parking lot there, and then the people parking on the street that are coming now encroaching up to the intersection. And that's kind of a tight intersection. So this was brought forward by the fire chief on his concerns on getting apparatus around that corner. Now, they're not saying both sides at this time, just that tight corner right as on the left-hand side as you turn onto Green Street. So he was asking if he and the superintendent of public works were asking for no parking from the development's parking lot on that side of the street up to the intersection.
There's some, I'm looking at.
yeah, is it the small? I never can't remember.
Just parallel, I know the probation department's down there. So is that right across from there? Is that?
Yeah, that would be on the other side of the street from the probation. Yep. So it would be on that
Maybe we should come up
running
with
the
that.
length of kind of running the length of Chestnut Street up that Chestnut Street and back.
Yeah, so to your
Exactly.
left, if you look at the left, Sean, or to your left, that entrance is to their parking lot.
Yeah.
So no cars on the left side
Here?
of the street
Mhm.
from the intersection up.
Okay.
And I think there is some parking.
Yeah,
spot there.
there's handicap
Yeah.
spots before they were not designated as handicap spots, and then
And
they became, and then
designated.
people started parking on the side of the street.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, do the people that park there, are they, is it
Like-
identified as probation or tenants in the other properties?
I see a lot of probation in the morning.
Oh, but wait a minute, probation is a tenant in the space, so
Mhm.
they'd be eligible to park in the parking lot.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is
There's
there-
plenty of parking directly
Yeah.
behind that building. There's plenty of parking there.
Yeah.
It's, some of the residents will park there because I think there's an entrance
To-
into the
On the
Yeah.
backside?
units. Yeah.
I think it's like anything that, and like any parking issue we've had, like the closer you can get, you'll park there, even if there's ample parking nearby. So,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the no parking on Green Street from Chestnut Street intersection to the Lancaster Mills parking lot.
I'll second.
any discussion?
It's not a discussion, I'm gonna abstain because, just for consistency.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think the challenge for that area for me is it's hard to distinguish where the road is and where, like, if there are some lines there, yeah, but come around that corner, it's like,
A little tight.
it is, yeah, it's awkward, but.
I'm eavesdropping on Sean's pictures, but I'd like to go take a look at it myself.
Yeah.
Both on Allen Street again and down here.
Yeah. Definitely go during the day.
I'll withdraw my motion if we want
Okay.
to approach both the same way. As long
And
as it
we'll,
doesn't.
maybe not, if it comes, it comes back around, we'll provide a map with some clear
So just
highlighted.
based on that, if the fire chief believes that there is a hazard or that it's going to impede, can vehicles be removed from there even though there's no markings or no signage?
Like towed?
Yeah, we can
Yeah, well,
we can look into that.
Like if a fire truck has to get down there and Chief Lutz believes that the truck cannot get down there safely, then what actions can they take without having to come back here and
It is a very difficult
Yeah,
location for But I've seen the tractor trailers trying to make that right-hand turn up Chestnut Hill. And it's a really, really difficult situation. So
Throw some cars
I'd be certainly be willing to consider it. I just want to take a look
Yeah.
at it myself.
That's very nice.
So from the traffic committee. Okay. Next on the agenda is town administrator's report.
Hey, Madam Chair, just two quick items I just want to pass on. I do have some other issues I'll follow up with the board on, just to submit some other updates, but just want to announce that the tax rate hearing, working with the assessors and the accountant, will be on November 19th. So, and we're trying to finalize some numbers. We weren't able to make it for tonight. And then the next meeting, there's some people away. So, the second meeting in November would work out well. So it's still early enough to get it to DOR and not to be kind of too up against deadline. So November 11th will be the tax classification hearing. And just wanted to highlight, and I know it's in the correspondence, but just wanted to highlight congratulations on award of $500,000 for the Mass Trail grant, which will then help complete the build out of the Mass Trail, rail trail, bike trail here in Clinton. So we had gotten funding for engineering, then funding for phase 1. And now this will be for phase 2, which should encompass most of the stretch in Clinton. So that was good news. So, thank you to Franny Hodge and Phil Duffy was involved in that as well, and everyone that made that happen. So thank you, and our legislators as well. So thank you.
Another administrative business, old and new business, VFW Post, Poppy Drive fundraiser.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the VFW's request to hold the Poppy Drive fundraiser located on High Street and Church Street on Saturday, November 8th, 2025, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to raise funds for veteran causes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay, next is the appointment of the tax title custodian. We just,
Right, the town council had provided just a language of a motion if the board is willing to appoint Jared Aponte as tax title custodian. There was a question whether, when the board has done in the past, whether it was for the position or for the person. So just to clarify, just asking if the board is willing to take another vote, just to make Jared be clear that he's able to oversee this process. So.
And Jared is Jared Aponte is a tax contracted tax collector.
Right, treasurer collector.
I think this is the language if you want
Oh, sure.
to.
All right, so as provided under Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77B, I move to appoint Jared Aponte, Collector of Taxes and Treasurer for the Town of Clinton, as tax possession custodian of the property located at 525 Water Street, who shall have the care, custody, management, and control of the said property acquired by the town for unpaid taxes, and who shall facilitate the sale of the property under Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77B.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you.
Next up is one-day liquor license for the amendment to the one-day liquor license. Comedy show fundraiser.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the amendment of the one-day liquor license for the comedy show fundraiser to benefit the item appeal on October 25th, 2025 at the Clinton Town Hall.
Second.
Any discussion?
Also, it's going to be, okay, so to amend to a full liquor license.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Proposal for use of one-day liquor licenses by St. John Guardian of Our Lady Parish. Are they looking for like a blanket?
No, not at all. I'm sorry, Mitch. I'm just to clarify. I think what the pastor there is just wanted to make sure that he kind of had some feedback from the board, that if he starts booking events, say in the spring, it would only be in good weather because it's outside. So if he starts booking things for next spring or summer, that there isn't any major opposition from the board. Obviously, each event would have to come to the board individually, but he just didn't want to go forward if there were serious concerns from the board for him to be doing what he's doing there. So, so I know he had submitted some information for the board to review, and then he had followed up just asking, he was getting inquiries and asking, did the board have any concerns? So that was mostly it. Just wanted to kind of put it out there.
I do not have any concerns. Does anyone else have any questions?
I'd just like to make a motion if
Yeah.
if permissible to inform St. John's that in general, the board is supportive of liquor license requests for those types of events at his facility.
And that you'll review on a case-by-case basis as they come forward.
Mhm.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, is it
Mhm.
possible, permissible for us to grant a blanket license to a location like that?
I don't
No.
know. I didn't know if that was what they
Because
were
they-
asking.
yeah,
I didn't think it was, but
license, yeah.
I couldn't tell by the request. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, does it have to go to the board or go to the town administrator?
I think it's the board is the liquor licensing commission, so it would have to come to the board.
Okay. Next up is a resolution in support of freedom in our community.
Yeah, apologize for the name. It's a workshop. If anybody has any better solutions, I wasn't trying to ruffle any feathers or be over dramatic, but as I was pulling supporting information together on this, it just seemed to me to be very clear and a no-brainer as far as a show of support for immigrant members of our community during what's been a troubling time for a lot of them, I imagine. So it's been on the agenda before. I don't know if people have read it, if we want to do a first read and table for consideration, or if it's not going to fly at all, I'm happy to withdraw. I just knowing how diverse this community is, it's very different from a lot of other communities in the region, and seeing the clown show, even just a small sample size that has been ICE incidents in the community, I just thought it was the least we could do to express our support for those members of the community, and to, again, I tried to set a pretty low bar. As far as I understand, everything that is everything suggested in here is current procedure already. It's just amplifying things that we're doing already. So I will handle this any way you guys like.
Would anyone like to make a motion in support? Want to
I
give
can read it. We
discussion?
can
Yeah,
toss it.
we can have people consider it.
I have to say I'm not supportive of it, so. But I don't intend to vote in the affirmative for it.
Why don't I read it just to get on the record, since this might
Okay.
be the only time. It's a resolution of Clinton Select Board affirming its commitment to the freedom and dignity of all members of our community in the wake of increased unlawful attacks and abductions from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and other federal agencies. Whereas the American experience and the history of the town of Clinton is inherently rooted in the immigrant experience, whereas the 2020 U.S. Census reported that more than 17% of Clinton respondents were foreign-born, whereas statistics from the Massachusetts Department of Education for the 2024-25 school year reported that 44.5% of all Clinton students were of Hispanic or Latino descent, 36.1% of them spoke something other than English as their first language, whereas the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees protection for all from unreasonable searches and seizures without valid judicial warrant, whereas the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution provides that no state may deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, whereas recent law enforcement actions around the country throughout Massachusetts and in Clinton have caused fear, anxiety, anger, and uncertainty for many in our community, whereas these actions have discredited the Clinton Police Department and negatively affected the department's relationship with its community, whereas we hear these concerns and feel the pain of our neighbors, their friends, and our families and their families, whereas we believe that a diverse and unified community means a better, stronger, and safer Clinton for all of us, whereas the Clinton Select Board is committed to the freedom and dignity of every member of a community. Now, therefore, the Clinton Select Board resolves as follows. 1, the town of Clinton stands with those affected and offers them our full support. 2, the town of Clinton condemns the targeting of individuals because of their race, how they speak, or jobs they work. 3, the town of Clinton demands U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and any members of law enforcement or the military obey the United States Constitution and all federal, state, and local laws. 4, the town of Clinton shall dedicate no resources towards supporting legal abduction by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for any other federal agency. 5, this resolution confirms the town's commitment to local actions that promote freedom and dignity of every member of community. 6, these values will be reflected in all local government institutions effective immediately.
Motion?
I guess, sure. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to comment on the resolution.
Okay.
And for purposes of discussion, I guess, to go forward, I'll make a motion to, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
But I'm opposed to it. There was a lot in there, Sean, that I object to and feel very uncomfortable with. And I don't want to let it go unsaid. This country we're all immigrants or descendants of immigrants. The foundation of this country is based on immigration. Unlike other countries that they have their race, they have their language. Our nationality is an accumulation of centuries of immigration. Immigration is vital to the future of this country. We change. That's probably why we're surviving as a country. We change with every wave of immigration. And this isn't about, 3 months ago, I was in attendance at a adult ed graduation, and at least 50 people who had entered this country legally, waited their turn, followed a due process, worked hard, obtained their citizenship, and they proceeded down in front of the stage, each one of them holding an American flag proudly. And I was overwhelmed and impressed that I was witness to that many people in that one location who had earned their citizenship here. This isn't about those people. It's about people who, at the very best, can be said are cheaters. They're cheating the process, they're cheating the system, they're cheating the people who are entering this country legally and following a process and becoming citizens. And ICE isn't illegally abducting anybody. Their job is to keep us safe. Their job is to enforce the rule of law. No man is above the law, including those who came across the border illegally. We have local law enforcement has a long history of interacting with and serving with state and federal law enforcement officials. A month ago, due to the efforts of the FBI, contacted local police, and the local police were able to intercede and arrest an individual who was making very dangerous comments on social media that endangered the school system. And thanks to that working together of federal agencies and local law enforcement, we're a safer, better community. 3 months ago, approximately, there was a joint state, local, and federal task force that arrested a drug dealer behind the McDonald's restaurant. That was our local police interacting with federal law enforcement. That's their job. And characterizing what those people do to keep us safe as and somehow criminal or attacking people because of their color or their race is unjustified. Law enforcement, they rely on each other in very dangerous situations, and trying to create a division between local police and federal agencies isn't serving us well. If they're doing something illegal, that's what we have courts for. That's what we have Supreme Court for. Any of these things have been progressing through legislation, and so far as I can see, ICE is permitted to do what they're doing. And I object to creating a sense of division between local law enforcement and federal enforcement agencies. So I'm opposed to this resolution strongly, and I intend to stand with the blue if I can be a little bit flippant, but I believe that we need to stand behind local law enforcement and federal law enforcement in keeping this community safe. Thanks.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. I think Mr. Connolly, bringing up some terrific points, didn't bring up many of the points that were expressed on this. And I think, unfortunately, maybe we're looking at different news sources, but it's exactly people like those new citizens that I'm worried about, because they're getting rounded up just as much as anybody else. And that's where my problem is. I don't have a problem getting the bad guys. And that's why everything in here is stating support for people who are anxious right now, which has to be some of those people, if they're watching the same reports I am, and saying that no one is above the law, including law enforcement. And that's all I'm saying is if someone's going to come from a federal agency into this town, they're bound by the same laws as everybody else is. This also is in support of the Clinton Police Department, because I know the positive relationship they have with the town, and I'm afraid they're getting painted with an unfairly wide brush for some people who aren't qualified to do their jobs and are doing it very poorly. So I appreciate his comments. I just want to make sure that people understand what this resolution is proposing isn't necessarily what he's arguing against.
Well, can I follow up?
Sure.
This isn't about those citizens or those individuals who came into this country seeking a better life legally, applied, followed the process. Even if they're not citizens, if they came here legally, they have nothing to fear.
That doesn't mean they're not afraid.
Well, then this only makes them more afraid. They have
How does this
nothing to
make them more
fear.
afraid?
The only ones that have something to fear are, I've got the floor, can I just finish?
I
now?
apologize.
They have nothing to fear. Those who slithered across the border in the dark of night and came here knowing, with a guilty mind, they knew they were breaking the law and are trying to participate in what we have to offer without following the process. The best that can be said about them is they're cheaters and they're trespassers. And they need to be afraid, because whether this resolution passes or not, ICE is coming for them. If they came here illegally, they should be afraid and they should voluntarily remove themselves. If they came here legally, they have nothing to fear. Thank you.
I'm just going to make one note on it. I wasn't going to say anything, but now I am. Having just finished reading a book called The Small and the Mighty. The United States does not always get it right. And we are a government built on people that I think in hindsight have found that with internment camps and many other things, we have not always made the right decision. So I think we are of the people, and I think, like I said, if you go back into the history of the United States, we can find many decisions that we now know were wrong. like I said, related to internment camps, civil rights, et cetera. And I think we are here again. So I would vote in favor of this. If there's any more discussion, we can take a vote. All,
good.
yeah, all those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Next.
Opposed.
Thank
you. All right, next up is possible next steps on the 675 Main Street property, commonly known as Scooties.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, apologies. I was out sick the last time I proposed this, and it was just a follow-up. So if it was addressed at that meeting, I'll go back and look at the tape, but I know town council was, I think, gonna look into the deed and see what the situation was for, I think the board, if I read the room right, seemed to be in favor of whatever options were available to us.
Yeah, I did after that meeting, I did speak with the Board of Health. The Board of Health had, actually, Mr. Worthwell, too. The Board of Health had actually filed an action in housing court. That's what led to the last cleanup. There was quite an effort going on down here for a couple of days. The Board of Health revisited the property. They were satisfied and they withdrew the action that they had filed in housing court. So when I spoke with the Board of Health, at that time, their position was they were satisfied with the status of the property at that time. And I haven't heard anything else since then. I did do the property is owned by an entity. There was an individual who obviously is behind that entity. Doing that title search, I did find that the town currently has a tax lien on the property. It's for a small amount, but it's still outstanding. And there are additional outstanding taxes on that property. But that's proceeding through tax lien, and it's going down that path. When I had last checked with the collector's office several weeks ago, the taxes still hadn't been paid. So, but the town is pursuing a tax lien on the property. But that's a process that's going to take some time.
I guess we'll just keep track on it, so it doesn't.
Yeah, I know there was some concerns
Fall into-
with the fence,
Mhm.
some overgrowth on the fence encroaching in butters.
Still after the cleanup, or?
Yeah, the problem is there's some vegetation that's grown through
Yeah,
the fence. And so there's some plastic fence and I think some wire, or sorry, what is it, like a grate fence,
Chain link.
Chain link, yeah. All right, I'll check in with the abutters and see how they're doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll follow up again with the Board of Health tomorrow, see when the last time was they were down there, and if they've had any complaints from the abutter. I mean,
I think there's raccoons living in there now, which was an issue. Like the animal control officer doesn't want to go in there without approval of the property owner.
Right.
And I don't know what we do with the.
unless unless the Board of Health deemed it some type of health issue, it's a commercial building, even though dilapidated, it is commercial. So unless they deem it some type of health issue with whatever's living in there, they have to issue some letter.
Yeah.
To be non-compliant, and then we can file an action.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the continued discussion on town hall hours of operation.
So our last meeting, I believe there was, the town administrator had mentioned gathering some information about the departments. I didn't know if you had that.
I did. I did ask all the departments and they did give me their hours of operation and their employee schedules. I don't have it compiled in a spreadsheet, but I do have all of their responses here. I can forward that to the board.
Is there uniformity within the hours of operation?
Yeah, I think there's pretty much, just looking quickly, I think there's mostly everyone's doing, in terms of their hours that I think there's two different things that was being asked, the hours of the office and then the employee schedule. So I think it appears that all of the office hours are open, 8 to 4. I think there was just Board of Health is 8 to 3 and Building Department is 7 to 3. But Permitting Department is 8 to 4. And the Building Commissioner is trying to move over with permitting, so they're all in one office, so we don't have the inspectors in one office and the staff in the other. And then, you know, when the inspectors are out, they're technically closed, but it really should be all one department. So we're trying to facilitate if there's enough room for Mr. Smith to be able to move over there. But he is, I think, going off of what a precedent in office is being available for contractors earlier in the day. So he's doing the 7-3. And I know there was a question about, you know, people that are outside of that realm, you know, we need to get permission for that. So, and he's new, so I can certainly bring that to his attention. But I think, other than that, I think all of the offices per se are all 8 to 4 that I can see, other than those. Cable television is fluid because he has to, I think you had mentioned at the last meeting, he's covering night meetings and weekend events. So that's kind of fluid. And generally, you know, they are able to get in touch with them. So other than that, I think looking at all the info, I can put it together on a spreadsheet and break it down for you. But it appears that what it's been reported to me is that all the offices are 8 to 4, except just Building Commissioner and Board of Health. I think of the two that are.
And then as far as employee hours, like, so were those the only departments that had employees that are not working 8 to 4?
No, there were a couple others. Yep. So there were 2 other offices that had employees that were on different schedules. So I can.
Can you just, you don't have to name anything in particular about what those hours would be?
Yeah, one was 8:30 to 4, and the other was 8 to 3. So.
And so the 8:30 to 4, so that would be with a half-hour lunch,
Right.
and then the 8 to 3 is skipping the lunch,
That's what it would appear. Right.
which is exactly what this board voted against. And that was one of the recommendations in that report, that no one should be working through lunch because of the financial liability that comes along with that. And you know, even on, I think there was even discussion about uniformity on whether it was a 1-hour lunch or whether it was a 30-minute lunch. I think the challenge that I see is, I don't believe that this is entirely accurate based upon my own observations on these hours as far as employees go. And I understand there's a whole policy behind it. Is it may not have the teeth, but this creates, number one, it impacts building morale, because there are departments that are the haves and departments that are the have-nots. And so if you have departments that are a one-person operation, they essentially are working 8 to 4. You have departments that maybe have multiple people that are using some flexibility within their personal hours of work that other departments don't have. So if that's the case, then why couldn't any department say, you know what, in the summertime, I'm going to work, 6 to 2, and I'm going to get out early. Well, then according to that, there's nothing we can do about that. But there's departments that they just, at some point when we set out to establish uniformity, the understanding was the hours were going to be posted on each department's website, which I do see most are 8 to 4, and that employees are working 8 to 4. So if we have employees that are coming in before the building is open, then what value to the public are they providing? Because the hours say 8 to 4, well, if they're here at 6 o'clock in the morning, then for those 2 hours, they don't have the public doesn't have access to them necessarily. So this board voted not this board, but the previous board voted unanimously on unifying, whether it was 8 to 4, the employees working 8 to 4, the employees not skipping their lunch, banking their lunch, eating at their desk through lunch, and it's continuing. It's not completely tightened up. It's still happening. You know, there has to be a point. You know, we provided the option for employees to come before the board to basically state their rationale. We've had one person that did it. It was approved. So I think
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That one I didn't address that because it was a 100% board. Yeah.
and that was the understanding too, was that in the event, you know, number one, the office would have to be open 8 to 4, and then that individual's schedule may have to, there has to be flexibility where to ensure that office is covered. You know, I'm not making another motion to, you know, solidify this a second time. This needs to be enforced based upon the previous board's desire.
Any further comments?
Well, where do we go from here?
I guess if people are self-reporting that they're working before, so.
So the individuals that are not, so the individual working through their lunch or not taking a lunch, are we just gonna continue to leave ourselves open to liability? Or are we gonna change, or is that something we're gonna end again?
Like you said, I think, gone on the record to say, like, this is what we want.
Can I ask the human resources manager, would you mind coming up just so? So based upon like the, you know, as we've had conversations in the past about, the policy, they're not having the teeth or just not having a policy. I'm not suggesting that this needs to be a witch hunt and people need to be, you know, corrective action needs to be ensued. You know, the desire is to have the employees working 8 to 4, as this board had voted on in the past. So that, I don't know, this seems to be way more than it needs to be.
It does become difficult to track without a policy and much more difficult to enforce. We can hold as many meetings as we want. We can show the report, but without having a policy that we can really hold someone accountable to, we're really grasping at straws. I think what's really important to consider here is that we do have different statuses as far as Fair Labor Standards goes. And we also have, to your point, you know, it's creating some sort of a morale issue. But this issue, every time it gets brought to the board and is spoken openly in this meeting, gets brought to me as another morale issue, because there is a feeling of it's been conveyed as micromanaging or over-involvement in the day-to-day, or not trusting your department heads to handle how they're running their departments, where ideally a department head will be the one who is being held accountable for their employees working the correct hours and being held to whatever that employee's status is. So an exempt employee department head would ensure that after 6 hours minimum, their employee who is non-exempt would be taking their lunch. So I think trying to create some sort of a blanket motion based on the Collins Center's recommendation and customer service. So, you know, a valiant effort, I would say, I think, in trying to kind of corral everything. You've already removed the accountability from your departments on how to be able to run their departments. as long as they're ensuring an 8 to 4 when town hall is open, that their departments are open. There are some exceptions to this, of course. Your one-person departments, and when there are absences, and of course, signage, appropriate signage, letting people know that they're unavailable or they're not there. But I think moving this from a more global kind of addressing this with everyone issue and really setting a policy in place and giving the charge to these department heads who are in charge of ensuring an 8 to 4 operating timeline Monday through Friday. That's really where we need to start. Because if we try to enforce it in a bigger scale without a policy, without a sign off, we're essentially tasking the town administrator with babysitting. And it's not very fair, in my opinion, to him when he has those employees who are in charge of overseeing the daily operations of those departments that report to him. So I think that that's where ideally we would start.
And I appreciate your insight, and, you know, we got here because of the number of complaints and feedback we would receive about, quote unquote, people not, you know, it's never open when I go up there. And so it reached a point where that is why the Collins Center was contracted to perform that. And then that's exactly what was found. So I agree. It's nobody, my intent is not to micromanage. I think that there's times where, you know, we are all public servants. And I think that at times it appears that people they use the flexibility of their job to benefit them as an individual. And that is what I'm completely against. So if you know, if the idea was, hey, at 7 a.m, I think we would get more interaction with the public, then I think that's a conversation worth having because they know their operation more so. But if we're skipping our lunch and we're leaving early to then go handle some, you know, other business, I think that's completely, I personally think it's immoral. So as far as skipping lunch, is that something that's a liability? Is it not? Because that was something that was brought forward to us
That's the exempt versus the non-exempt. You know, our department heads who are generally exempt, senior management, you know, the expectation is they work to fulfill the job, to finish the job. They're salaried employees, but your non-exempt are hourly employees. At minimum, after 6 hours, they need a 30-minute lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks within that. Or we incorporate it all together, that 1 hour break that we give them for, and you know, and generally a department head, usually one that's, you know, robust and sizable, knows how to split that up. They'll have their departmental policies. For example, if it was big enough, they'll do the half-hour lunch and the 2 breaks, and they'll make sure that there's coverage all day long. And I've seen that in some departments and I haven't in others, but I don't know their daily operations. So there's really, and without a policy, I'm not intervening. You know, so I think it's important for managers to understand their responsibility, because they're kind of contributing to that liability, and part of their job is to protect us from that.
So an exempt employee is not necessarily required to have a 1 hour lunch.
I mean, it's ideal. They, you know, and we'll always push it. I'll always push for a department head to take their lunch or to go handle an errand or whatever it might be, but it's not always realistic. And so you might find that you have that department head that leaves at 3 o'clock or comes in at 7 in anticipation of a 9 o'clock meeting. You might have that. You might also have that department head who comes in at 7 and leaves at 9 o'clock at night. They're doing what the expectations of their job are within reason. I would hope that no one's here regularly over 12 hours. But generally speaking, you know, they're entitled to a break here and there, but they're expected to perform.
And I think, so the points you bring up, I agree with, and I think trying to distinguish between you know, if um, if I can bank my lunch and then by the end of the week, you know, oh, now I'll work a half day and then carry on out. And that's what the intent of, that was one of the intentions of that vote, was to try to say, no, you have to, you know, you have to take your lunch. We're not banking lunch, and we're not working half days on Friday in the summer, unless it's approved by the town administrator.
And that's a different story. That's
Different.
usage of time, and something that we're hoping to address as we draft a time and attendance policy to go along with the new system, so that you know exactly how to administer the time. So for someone who's exempt, who essentially baked all of their lunch, if they're working 4 hours at the end of the week, they're still expected to use vacation time. But if they worked 12 hours in one day, and confusing myself, give me one moment, I'm sorry. If they're working within the scheduled hours, but they're leaving at 3 o'clock, they've completed their 8 hours, the expectation wouldn't be that you would make them charge 1 hour. They had to work through their lunch to get their work done. But also considering that, does that person have other staff? Is it realistic to expect that that office is open at all times, 8 to 4? And what's the expectation if it can't?
It's, yeah, it's certainly tricky because I think, you know, in wanting to like certainly support the employees, like you said, the feedback we were getting, I think specifically when I joined the board, was a lot of, I came, this office wasn't open, or this, well, you know, and it kind of varied. So I think we're kind of as representative of the citizens trying to figure out like, yeah, what is the best path forward, and for, you know, people who work here, but also the people who need the services to be, you know, I mean, it sometimes is tough to kind of like get here for 8 to 4. So if other people are taking time off to come here and then they can't, you know, so, I mean, I've always been in favor of like very clear communication. That's been the struggle, trying to get you know, the website updated or clear, you know, out of office replies, signs on the doors, understanding what, you know, so it's really open to any kind of thoughts or suggestions. I'm also like, we're not the only small town in Massachusetts. Like, there's got to be good practices in place, and it is somewhat cultural too. Like if, you know, if people are gone all day and they don't have an out of office, and other people are like, why do I need to do that too? You know?
Right.
So I think it is kind of somewhat of a cultural thing as well. But yeah, I guess I understand the struggle, but also, as you were saying, and I was like, we also are trying to make it so citizens can get what they need to.
Right. Just like in your corporate jobs,
Yeah.
Every policy has to have a little bit of teeth for it to make sense. You can let go of anybody for any reason,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, if you're paying that unemployment benefit and for that position, you know what I mean? This is the whole point of having these policies, so that you can show you, as the employer, have taken every measure to assist this employee in keeping their employment. And that's the biggest thing that we're kind of looking at here. So they implement these policies so that they can hold them accountable. And that's really the threat. What's the consequence for not observing town hall hours or not observing your hours of work? You know, if a department head has enough employees to keep the office open 8 to 4 and can allow those employees to have half-hour lunch, and one works from 8 to 3:30 and the other one works from 8:30 to 4, then we should allow that department head, in theory, to be able to make that decision, as long as that department head is ensuring that the office is open to the public between the hours of 8 and 4.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Yep.
I just have a couple of questions and a couple of comments about this whole conversation. But what exactly is the liability of allowing employees to eat lunch at their desk? And do we provide them with an alternative location for them to eat their lunch, or do they have to go off-site?
There's no liability for having lunch at your desk. If we're talking specifically working through your lunch or the act of eating lunch at your desk, it's very much a policy. It's customer service. It's preference. It really depends on the town's policy for that. We do have a space for employees to go if they want to have lunch. It's a very small and very cramped space, and probably is enough room for one person. If everyone decided to have lunch at noon, then I wouldn't recommend it. But we do provide that space that we're obligated to.
So I'm confused. Is it a liability for employees to eat lunch at their desk, whether they're claiming to work through lunch or not? Are they allowed to eat lunch at their desk? I'm hearing conflicting.
Eating lunch at your desk is not a liability. That is a matter of preference, and it's a matter of policy, which I'm understanding we don't want people to eat in front of our constituents. This is how I'm receiving that. The act of having to take a lunch break is a labor violation. If you're a non-exempt employee and it's been 6 hours and you haven't taken your lunch yet, and you're scheduled for another 1, 2, 3 hours.
And is it permissible for them to eat lunch and serve the public at the same time?
That would be a matter for this board.
So just for a point of clarification, so eating through their lunch, or eating at their desk, what I'm referring to is working through their lunch and then using that time to leave early or whatever the case may be. So it's not physically eating. That's not, that I apologize for that confusion. I'm not saying eating at their desk, but mainly the act
Not
of
taking lunch break.
not taking your lunch break. Still, well, let me get rid of the eating at your desk. Just foregoing working,
Without a
foregoing
break.
your break to leave early or bank it. Is that a liability,
It's a labor violation.
labor violation? So
You need to take a lunch after 6 hours at most. You can work 6 hours before you have to take a lunch break, and that's at least a half hour. But do our department heads know that?
Do we have that as a policy?
We do not,
Uh,
but it is law.
It is law. Yeah.
Yes, that they have to take a
Yes.
break,
Yes.
but we don't have a policy that says they can't bank their lunch, or
Well, it's the law.
it's the law that they take the break, I understand. But if they,
There's nothing written.
so this building's full of various departments with different staffing levels, different opportunities to serve the public but if it's a one-person office, or if it's a two-person office and someone's on vacation or out sick, how does that staffing full-time from 8 to 4 work with
That's
people taking breaks?
that's where we have to make that consideration. That's where we have to take that into consideration when we're piecing together a policy, because we do have multiple single-person departments here who do leave for lunch. Some of them, including myself, I close my door so I can eat and work, and within 10 minutes I have my door back open. So it really depends on who you're with, what they're scheduled for throughout the day, the perception that a department is closed because they're in a meeting. It really depends on how this board or anyone would really like to approach this policy. But the expectation that the office is open 8 to 4 is not unreasonable.
What about, how do we handle different departments that have obligations outside of this building? The building inspector is one. I guess town administrator is exempt, but especially with the staffing we have for the main office. I know Mike's one of those people that works from morning to, I've gotten messages from him at 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
Sure.
I didn't read them because I was sound asleep, but how do we handle that?
We let the town administrator do his job and manage.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we need to separate some of those things. Our building commissioner, building inspector is part of a bigger office, is part of that permitting office. So there is something open 8 to 4. his specific office might not necessarily be the case. Might not necessarily be open, but the information that anyone could obtain from him could go to the permitting office to get that. I think if I'm being very honest, this very blanket, let's enforce this, it's not very effective in the way that you want it to be. We're bypassing the people that we hired to manage our employees and undermining them also. And in some cases, and I'm not speaking for you, sometimes the town administrator, where if he knows an employee is scheduled offsite, he knows that I go to the school department regularly. He and I know where I am, and my hours of operation are on my door. So I think, he manages me. I manage my schedule. He trusts that I'm able to do it, and he should be able to ask me questions of where I'm at without being offended because he's my superior.
It sounds to me like we haven't done our job. I'm new to this whole conversation. I wasn't around for the Collins report or the votes to implement it. So I'm unaware of most of that stuff. But it sounds like we're putting the cart before the horse. And also, and this is only my point of view, and I'm sure it's not shared, but this is the definition of micromanagement. What we're doing here right now is micromanagement. And I'm supportive of the employees who feel that it is, that it's nickel and diming how they do their jobs. And I'm not supportive of this going forward without clear-cut guidelines that are enforceable. And I think sending the town administrator off, running through the hallways, checking on everybody and seeing if they're there is a foolish waste of our effort, time, and energy. We, the board, and the town administrator, and the HR director have much more important things to be dealing with than randomly trying to enforce a time clock on every employee in the business, in this building, because each one of their jobs is different. Their ability to, the office sizes are very different in each location, and their offsite obligations are different for many of them. And the whole thing about people coming in early, and I don't know who we're talking about, but I'd be one of those people because most of these jobs are more than just serving the public. I get most of my work done from 5 to 7 before my employees are on the job asking questions or needing other things. After 7 o'clock, my time's exhausted just handling other people's issues. So I like to start 2 hours early and try to get something done, or stay late when nobody's around and get stuff done. So I don't think we should be prohibiting that because that's part of the job too.
I mean, with that rationale, I'm a morning person. I'll come in, I'll work, 5 to, 4 to 1 or 5 to 2. And hey, I'm here, I'm doing my time. How accessible to the public I am doesn't seem to matter. And, you can refer to it as micromanaging all you want. There is a law, the culture that has been allowed to exist within this building goes back many, many, many years, where people are not putting in for their paid time off when they're not in the office. There's people that are putting in things that appear to be fraudulent on time cards for the number of hours worked in a week. And all that costs money at the end of the day. So micromanaging, call it what you want, but this was brought up for a reason. So maybe when people come up, if the office is closed at some hour, then maybe they need to send an email to the select board or something to notify us, because this isn't just again, it's a small portion, but it's happening. So sorry, I want to ensure that the public is receiving the level of service that they're entitled to and that they fund. And I would also expect that this position is a priority to be a public servant. And if you're doing this, so, you know, you're coming in, so I'll come in 6 to 2 and then I'm gonna go work at my other job. I have a problem with that. So if, you know, at the end of the day, if I have to take alternative, avenues to address it, then I will. But I know you like that buzzword, the micromanaging, so.
First time I've used it.
No, you use it during your campaign too.
Oh.
It was on your flyer.
Right, that's right.
All right, yeah, I think we've
Well,
exhausted.
just-
But feel free to comment,
One-
yes.
You know, yeah, you brought this issue up many times. If there is a particular department that you see is making these violations, let's find out who that is and try to correct it or have the department head address it. I don't know. I mean, I've come up to pay tax bills or excise. I've never seen, just say, the collector's office. There's always someone there. I know I've seen them having lunch at their desk. I'm sure someone ran out downtown or something and patronizing a business in Clinton was having their lunch at their desk. I don't see any issue. I don't see any problem. I worked at National Grid for 34 years. A lot of people ate their lunch at their desk. And you know, we had a half an hour for lunch. Company paid us for it. But there's a lot of corporate companies that don't pay for lunch. And I'm sorry, we didn't get paid for lunch, but there are companies that do pay them. So it's all around. And I don't know, I think from my perspective, and I've been here for a long time off and on, I don't know ever in my tenure here that we weren't lucky as a community to have wonderful workers working for the town of Clinton. And if there are abuses, I'd like to see them. I'm not saying that the world is perfect because it isn't. And there's always someone that's going to try to get away with something. But you don't, the other 99.5% are following the rules. And I just think, you know, I have to agree with Billy. I don't want to make it into a big thing because I think we're very lucky. We have a long, most of the people that are here have long tenure and they've been loyal employees to this town. And I just think it's, we're lucky for the fact that for the small departments that we have and the work that gets done, I think it's fantastic. And I commend all of them.
I'm happy to just bring it offline.
Yeah.
I'll share all the information and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Not sure what that means, but
Do you have a
I'm trying
particular
to,
issue that you wanna?
I was trying to be judicious about, you know, but I can be very specific. And rather than do so publicly, I'll share the information with the town administrator again, and as well as human resources, and go from there.
So on that, we're leaving.
That's exactly it.
So we're leaving it to manager's discretion. Is that where we're going to ensure that the operations of their department is,
Madam Chair,
conducted.
I'd suggest that what we need is a comprehensive written policy that attempts to address the very diverse needs in this building by different departments and different employees. And how can you enforce something that's not actually drafted and written? It's not as simple as saying the office is open from 8 to 4, because every office has a different dynamic, whether it's off-site needs or number of employees. So I think before this board is attempting to enforce anything, I think there should be a document that's drafted, that this board is supporting, that town council has deemed legal, that the HR director has identified that legal issues like lunch break, mandatory breaks and things like that. But I think having witch hunts and having conversations like this does create a morale problem in this building. And it's exactly what I was referencing during the campaign.
It also creates a morale
Yeah,
issue
I was
between
gonna say.
employees and departments.
And then if you see a coworker leaving with the flexibility that you don't have, that creates a morale problem as well. So, All right, well, we'll continue to discuss, I don't know what policy would cover every department manager's discussion, but certainly consider it for the future. All right, moving on. Thank you very much. Joint meeting with Finance Committee and Personnel Board regarding town administrator position.
So I wasn't sure if there, I know that Mr. Conley had mentioned having something he wanted to share with the board with regard to the opening, so I didn't know, I only asked for that to be put on there as part of if there was something presented, and depending on how the board chose to move forward with, then it was on there for discussion, but if it appears that are we going to be discussing?
I would prefer to wait till the next meeting and present something in writing so the board has a chance to evaluate it.
Okay.
So
Table.
just to note, that'll be 5 weeks in between the first time we had this conversation and the next one. As I mentioned, slow playing.
All right.
You don't need to wait for my opinion on something that, if you have something you want to do, just go right ahead and steamroll over it. I didn't come here prepared to, I got this item on the agenda 2 days ago.
I was under with the understanding that there was gonna be something presented at the meeting tonight, that's all.
Okay, we'll table this. Recycling center expanded hours.
So I know that we had talked about maybe looking into doing 1 day. So I didn't know if there was a chance to contact Mr. Cobb on the feasibility of doing it, or
Yeah, I've had some discussions. I think I talked to some of the employees there and the DPW director, and I know Mr. Cobb, we were going to get together last week and we didn't connect. So I'll follow up with him. But I think there is some openness to try like a night. The concerns are lighting.
yeah.
That if it's in the winter time, so maybe would it be like a spring, fall to try it as it gets a little darker? Because with cars, oftentimes, especially if they're going to the leave dump, it's in the back that they kind of hustle through the area, and they're always kind of being needing to kind of keep them slow down in the traffic. So I think there was a little concern of the lighting, whether we can advance the lighting there, whether that's putting up more lighting or if there's a way to get it better. So I think that was just a big concern, but I think people are open to want to give it a try. Depending on how busy it is, if it's busy, when it's busy, two people are hustling to kind of keep up with everyone. So if it opens later at night and it gets really popular, then it would be kind of concern of one person working. But I think there seems an openness to at least give it a try, see if the public will embrace it. What threw out to me was a Thursday night. I don't know if that's something what people were thinking about. Because I asked, I don't know if we wanted to do like another day or just expand on the days that they're open. They're open Wednesday through Thursday, Friday from 10 to 2, and then 9 to 1 on Saturday. So one person could, like on Thursday, maybe that one person would work the regular shift and then the second person would stay later to go into the late afternoon or, evening. So I approached it a little bit with Mr. Bartlett. So we're going to kind of look at the area down there and see just for safety wise, if there is lighting or, I don't know what time of year what time that it gets dusk or that it gets of concern. But I think there's certainly an openness to do something. So I'd like to see something happen to let's try it.
And that makes complete sense. So it definitely doesn't seem feasible this time of the year where it gets dark so earlier and, looking to help the public gain access, but not increase, hazard in doing so. So that, I appreciate you looking into it, and that makes sense. I think even if it was seasonal, I guess maybe like in the spring and summer when it's a little bit later or whatever, but,
Okay.
that makes sense.
We'll keep working on it, come up with a proposal that will work.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
the old new business, I have a couple of things.
That aren't on the agenda?
They were previous items on the agenda.
Can we move them to the next meeting?
Sure, I was going to
Okay.
ask that these things be on the next meeting.
Okay, we can send me an email about it. We have a long agenda. I'd like to get
So
through it.
here, I can't present them now.
Well, I think you have a habit of kind of adding things on versus putting them like formally on the
I thought that
agenda
was part of my job,
to not put them on the agenda.
to ask if they be on the agenda.
For
at a
next time?
subsequent- At a subsequent.
Okay,
meeting.
I misunderstood you. I thought you were wanting to continue a discussion about something without it being on the agenda.
One of these I asked for a couple of months ago, and haven't heard anything back on it. It was what I'd like to ask for on the agenda at the next meeting or soon after that. The DPW superintendent be available to discuss winter parking bans and temporary parking intermittently on High Street for the cleanup operations that DPW tries to run.
Okay,
The
that's in
last time
traffic committee
oh.
right now.
Pardon
And
me?
I said that was in traffic committee and we didn't get to it next time. So we are planning to meet traffic committee within probably the next week and a half. So as it coincides with our next meeting,
So
we'll
we
have
have a
something up.
discussion with the DPW superintendent.
I will ask him to attend.
The other thing was I had asked a number of times about a proposal regarding the current treasurer collector position, proposal to move that forward or understand what the dynamic would be of continuing with that same person as a consultant rather than a full-time employee. And
That's on me, and I
Yeah.
do have that, and I have some thoughts on it. I'll send that email to the board, and how we can proceed from there.
Okay.
And if you want to call this a committee report, I just was going to briefly update the board on the status of the middle school project and how it's progressing. They are moving very aggressively and making a lot of progress there. I don't believe many people are aware of how far along they are because you drive by the site and all you see is dirt and equipment. But foundations are pretty much, they'll be wrapped up in a couple of weeks. They're flying steel November 11th, I believe. And you'll see the building rise up out of the ground. And they are planning on paving a main road completely around the actual buildings with a base coat the first week in November, obviously weather permitting. So from my observation, they are making very substantial progress. And as we speak, a lot of the numbers have come in and they are operating at or under the projections for the budget. So the town, what I wanted to say is the town has an excellent team working on our behalf up there.
Thanks for that committee report. Are there any additional committee reports outside of school committee? We've given some traffic committee ones already. Community announcements.
Just the Ghosts and Goblins scholarship one is this Saturday.
First.
Oh, November 1st. Yeah.
And the item appeal is having a fundraiser here at the town hall on Friday, or excuse me, Saturday, the 25th. Okay, we are now moving into 3 executive sessions.
Madam Chair, just for discussion, I know that Heather was requesting Sterling on the Sterling Conservation Commission to a project to build a solar panels on the property adjacent to the former landfill.
Mhm.
Do we have a status update on that? Where does that stand? Because I know that we had talked about the town itself about putting solar panels there for energy to the schools and the waste treatment plant. So, I mean, I would prefer to see Clinton develop something up there. I'm just looking at, what exactly their proposal is. And what impact that would have, and where that energy that they are going to do, is that going back to Sterling? So I have some
Mike, do you have
concern
any
about.
information about that?
Yeah, we can get more information on it. I mean, that was, I think, the proposal that came before the board to allow them easement to
Yeah.
run lines to
Right,
that, but
right.
it is in Sterling property. The town is getting a fee for that,
Okay.
for that use. But there was a plan, kind of with the former DPW director and DEP to do solar panels on the town, on town
Right.
property. Going forward, we needed to wait for compliance certificate to have DEP sign off on the capping of the landfill. So I'll look into that and
Yeah.
see where we are with that
I
point.
mean, I know it says adjacent to the former
Right.
landfill, but I didn't know exactly where that site was.
Yeah, I think it's right in the back, right? Yeah, right in the back.
We haven't had any communications on that several months,
No.
so.
Well, if you could just maybe have an update at the next
I
meeting.
mean,
Yeah.
to be quite frank, the easement's not even finalized. That document, I believe, has never been signed yet, even though we negotiate all the terms. So right now, they don't even have access, formally. But we did negotiate it, we went before the board several times, and it's pretty much in final form with some tweaks. But then the Sterling property, initially when we were talking about it, the Sterling property wasn't involved, and the Sterling property came on, but that piece has not been finalized.
Okay.
So I haven't heard anything from the owners in probably 2 months.
But thank you.
We'll look
Just-
into that.
Anything else? Yeah, it's in the packet. Okay, we are now leaving open session to go to 3 executive sessions. First one is Article 2, Clinton Facilities Grounds Union. The second one is Article 2, Clinton Public Works Union. The third is Article 2, Clinton Fire Union grievance. We will not be returning to open session following those executive sessions. I'll take a roll call to enter into executive sessions.
Bill Connolly, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Matt Kovas,
Mary Jacob, aye.